You set foot in the room. You're a gift. Behold us now.
How's it going, everyone? Hope you're having an awesome day so far. RipNtear with the video about the Seraphim, or Samur Maker as he is called, and wanted to talk about who he really is and what are his motives throughout the Doomslayer's crusade. After the release of Doom Eternal, there have been a few popular fan theories about Samur and Hayden being the same person, why the Seraphim blessed Doom Guy with godly powers, and what happened to him after being exiled from heaven. The Ancient Gods DLC will no doubt shed some light on these theories and allow us to fully know the truth behind his motives. Before we get going, if you are new here and love Doom and similar content, then you are in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and set up notifications if you enjoy what you see here on the channel. I really appreciate the support on here and hope to one day hit the next goal of having 50,000 subscribers and to continue having an awesome community as well. Let's try to get at least 1,000 likes on this video so we can help out the channel. Alright, let's get going. After playing Doom Eternal and diving deep into the lore and the codex entries, I think I have somewhat of a good understanding of what is going on throughout the Doom universe. After Doom 2016, the lore has become more of a building block to the franchise and is full of so much content for those who love a good story. However, the lore within the recent games do seem to have some missing info, which forces us to create a ton of theories, and most of them tend to be true in the end. The Seraphim, for instance, was full of so much mystery within the lore of Doom 2016 that a lot of us thought that he could also be the Betrayer, or the Wretch, or even the original Doom Guy. In the end, we found out that he was a Maker, the Chancellor to the Con Maker, and the one who blessed Doom Guy with godlike powers from the Divinity Machine or Slayer Ritual. The lore also states that he stole the Father's essence and left Urdak after betraying the Con Maker by blessing the Slayer without her approval. Something that doesn't add up is that within the lore it says that within the conscious neural matrix to which each Maker is interconnected, it is physically impossible for a Maker to refuse the collective order of shared consciousness and disobey a Con. If the Seraphim is indeed a Maker, why was he able to bless the Slayer without the approval of the Con Maker? He does of course steal the essence of the Father, but we don't know exactly when that happened, but it could have been sometime before the discovery of Argent Energy. Up until that point, not one Maker has ever disobeyed a Con, so either the Seraphim was not really a Maker, or he had more of a free will of his own due to his status and place in the hierarchy. Every 10,000 years there would be a new Con Maker, and the old one would submit themselves to the transfiguration and be resurrected within the neural matrix using the essence of the Father. Without the essence, the current Con's lifespan would have more of a permanent ending, and there wouldn't be a new Con to succeed them. That's a lot to digest, but one thing that can help us understand why the Seraphim did what he did was due to the infinite conscious matrix of the all-seeing Maker God Mind, which allows the Makers to see an infinite number of possible timelines. These timelines all have one thing in common, which is where the Destroyer will bring about the destruction of the Makers. The Seraphim must have known that he was destined to bring about the destruction of the Makers, as he would be the one to create the Destroyer, the Doomslayer, into existence. Of course, the possible timelines are variable and not completely defined, so that could be why the Con Maker would not have known that the Seraphim would be the one to betray her and have time to stop the Slayer Ritual. The attack on Terras Nabad could have also been a distraction to keep the Makers and Sentinels focused on the battle while Samur blessed Doom Guy. The demonic attack on the city was a surprise to the Sentinels, as they had no warning of the Dreadnought or demonic titan that came through a portal to Argent Energy, and they thought treason was at play. Now of course that treason could have been something that the Dags would have done, as they planned betrayal long before trapping the Night Sentinels in Hell, or like I mentioned before, it was Samur who wanted to test Doom Guy and keep everyone distracted while he blessed him. He mentions to the Slayer that there are those who would seek to stop this, speaking of the Slayer Ritual. To me, it would make sense to have a huge distraction like that so the Con would not know of the Doomslayer until it was too late to do anything. Come to think of it, it's actually very possible that the Seraphim stole the Father's essence after the discovery of Argent Energy, as he saw what happened to the Makers when exposed to the power. The Con was in power indefinitely now that she could avoid the transfiguration, and made a deal with the Dark Lord to allow Hell to consume worlds under her control. He must have thought that the Makers brought damnation to themselves by using Argent Energy and allying themselves with Hell, and that it was necessary to bring about the destruction of Urdak by way of the Doomslayer in order to bring things back in order. So in the long run, the Seraphim had good intentions from the start and wanted what was best for the Sentinels and the Makers. If he didn't bless the Doom Marine, the Night Sentinels may not have had much of an advantage, and of course would have lost the city of Terras Nevat a lot faster. Also, the Titan would have done more damage to the city and other cities in the area, causing more deaths to the people of Argenta. The Doom Marine was still a worthy opponent to the forces of Hell, but even then, he was still mortal and could not defeat the Dreadnought. On top of that, the Khan Maker would have been successful in allowing Hell to consume all of the other worlds that were in her control with no one to stop her. Thankfully, Samur knew that the Doom Marine was the chosen one and could have been the one who brought him into the world of Argent-D'Nur. Prior to the invasion of Hell on Argent-D'Nur, Doomguy was fighting in the Dark Realm for who knows how long exactly. He then mysteriously stumbled upon the Sentinel people, and nowhere in the lore explains how that happens. Up until that point, the people of Argenta had no idea about Hell and have never been to the Dark Realm or created any slipgates to that dimension. Argent energy wasn't created yet, and the Khan hasn't made a deal with the Dark Lord as well. So I don't think it was a coincidence that Doomguy just so happened to find a portal from Hell into the dimensions of Argent-D'Nur and a different timeline with an Earth that hasn't been invaded by Hell quite yet. In the DLC trailer for the Ancient Gods, the Seraphim seems to be speaking and says that we knew who you were the moment you entered our world. It would be very interesting if Samur knew of the Doom Marine and guided him into Argent-D'Nur. Like I mentioned before, the Makers are able to see into the future, and Samur could have known that this particular person would be the chosen one. The Makers have the technology to create slipgates, and were the ones who provided that technology to the people of Argenta. On top of that, the Khan is able to appear anywhere without the use of a slipgate, so I would say that other Makers could do that as well and or allow other beings to do it. What if Samur saw where the Doom Marine was and provided a slipgate of some sort, allowing him to travel to Argent-D'Nur? It might be a bit of a stretch, but I think the DLC will expand a ton more info on the relationship between the Slayer and Samur. We know that the time frame between Doom 2016 and Eternal will be explained in some way or another, so why not how the Slayer ended up in Argent-D'Nur? The new ending of Doom 64 kind of bridges the gap into how the Doom Marine finds the Sentinels, but it's not too specific. What do you guys think about that? The other possibility that connects some dots is how Samur and Hayden are not the same person. To be honest, it's hard to argue that they have absolutely no connection to each other, but after digging more into the lore and seeing the trailer for the DLC, I'm starting to think that they are definitely two different people. To start with, Samur Hayden was born to a human family, so the theory that Samur somehow put himself into the robotic body that Hayden uses would not entirely work out. There are a lot of similarities for sure, but I think it would be too easy for id Software to say that they are the same people, even with having the same voice actor as well. To me, it would be more of a surprise and huge plot twist if they were indeed two different people. On top of that, I found some evidence on how this adds up. The fact that Hayden's robotic mainframe has the same architecture as the Fortress of Doom could be due to the Argent energy found within the body and around his brain. When Hayden was diagnosed of cancer, he put parts of his brain and consciousness into the robotic body, which was powered by Argent energy, which of course is an energy source that the Fortress of Doom would have used or at least supported. The ARC scientists couldn't access his main cortex as they labeled it as alien, which of course would make some sense as his brain was surrounded by Argent energy and was different from the synthetic Argent energy that he created from the demonic crucible. On top of that, when he meant alien, he could have just been referring it to something that they have never worked on before. The UAC was decades ahead of other companies when it came to technology, and when Hayden came back to Earth to help the ARC, he gave them access to the high-tech weaponry, facilities, and other components that would help the war effort. The design of his robotic body could have been inspired by the Corax tablets or other discoveries of Urdak. We see a lot of the design of his head within Urdak, so that could be why he looks like Samur. When Hayden transferred his consciousness into the mainframe of the Fortress of Doom, he could have discovered a whole heap of info that allowed him to know of Dagrov's whereabouts. It's also possible that Hayden already knew about the city of Hebeth from his discoveries on Mars with the UAC. After the Argent Tower was completed in 2127, the discovery of the Doomslayer wasn't until 2145, so there were many years of discoveries that he could have known about Sentinel history. The UAC had in their possession the Corax tablets, which talked a lot about the Sentinels, the Doomslayer, and other cities, so it would make sense that Hayden already knew about Urdak and the Dags by way of the tablets. When the Slayer enters the door leading to the ceremony of waking the Icon of Sin, the AI says, "Welcome Seraphim." There are two things to point out that would argue against Hayden being the Seraphim here. The first thing would be from the unused voice lines for Hayden, where he talks with the Slayer about giving him access to the neural prime network of Makerland by masking his biochemical signature with one of their own.
I have access to the neural prime network of Makerland. I will mask your biochemical signature with one of their own. This may sting a bit.
Since this was unused voice lines, we really can't say that this is what happened for sure, but if Hayden was in the Fortress's mainframe, which had Maker technology, he could have gotten the signature from there. Second, since the Slayer was put in the Divinity Machine, it granted him godlike powers, which were powers from the Makers, and as a result, made him part Maker. The Seraphim could have fused some of his power to the Slayer as part of the ritual, or since Seraphim is another word for angels, you could say that the Slayer would be considered an angel. Even Dr. Elena Richardson said that he was an avenging angel, so it wouldn't be too crazy to think that the Doomslayer is part angel, which allowed him access to Urdak no matter what. He is also immortal as a result of the Divinity Machine, so him being half human and Maker would allow him to do a lot of the things that he does more of a possibility. I think also how no human has ever stepped foot in the dimension of Urdak would make it clear that the Doomslayer's power allows him to travel between multiple dimensions. Even Hayden mentions about it to the Slayer in Doom 2016 that he is the only flesh and blood to walk between dimensions, at least in Hayden's experience, meaning the Slayer ritual gave him the necessary powers to make it possible. Of course, since he is considered immortal, other unworldly beings like demons and Makers are able to move between dimensions as well. Technically, the Makers are unable to travel to Hell, but in the Codex here, it shows the Makers in Hell, but it could just be referring to them as overseers of the progress of the Tower Necroval from Urdak and is more symbolic. We also know that the Sentinels have been able to travel to Hell and back with no issues, but none of them have ever traveled to Urdak. I think this could be another reason how Hayden and Samur are not the same person. After blessing the Slayer, Samur would have definitely seen the Slayer travel to Hell multiple times with the Night Sentinels, and if he was the same person as Hayden, why would he be surprised that the Doomslayer could travel between dimensions during the events on Mars? Now, of course, it's possible that there are some problems with continuity, but I guess we'll see more about that in the DLC. Throughout the trailer for the Ancient Gods DLC, we finally get to see what the Seraphim looks like under the hood. Samur and Hayden no doubt have a lot of similarities, as I have mentioned before, but we still don't know for sure what happened to Samur after he was exiled from Urdak. While playing the level of Urdak, I have always noticed that there are other planets within that realm of space. As far as him being exiled, he could have placed himself on one of those planets while he waits for the fall of Urdak. The lore doesn't specifically say that the Khan exiled him, it just shows that the Sentinels believed or that it was implied that he was exiled due to his absence after blessing the Slayer and betraying the Khan Maker. It could even be possible that Samur hid himself within Urdak, allowing himself to remain close to the Khan Maker and waiting for the opportune moment to come out of hiding. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Now, of course, how would Hayden come into the possession of Vega? Throughout the lore in Doom 2016, we find out that Hayden created Vega by means of advanced technology and Hell artifacts. What if Samur was able to reside in Hell throughout his exile and was also considered to be the Wretch? Considering that the Khan Maker could not go to Hell, Samur would be able to protect the Father's essence there and could have placed a portion of his essence within an artifact created in Hell. If you think about it, the Dark Realm would have hated Samur so much because of what he did to the Slayer. He was the reason there was a Destroyer, an Unchained Predator, the Hellwalker, to rip and tear until it is done. The denizens of Hell might have actually hated Samur more than the Doomslayer. If that was the case, then by all means it would make sense to call him the Wretch, who shall not be named, as a way to dishonor him and his achievements. Also, considering that the Khan Maker did a deal with the Dark Lord, Samur would have been someone to break up the agreement, as he knew about it. On top of that, if the Wretch created or updated the Slayer's Praetor suit, he would have known about Maker and Sentinel technology. The Praetor suit has the sash on its right side, resembling the status or rank of the Sentinel. This was something that was explained by Hugo some time ago, and we see the same design on the Marauder and other Night Sentinels. There's also the red thing on the left chest that allows the Slayer access to certain things within the Sentinel world, such as the Celestial Locator, much like a keycard of some sort. So after knowing these things, the Praetor suit is no doubt of Sentinel and Maker design. This is also why the Praetor suit is very similar to what the Night Sentinels, Commander Valen, and the Marauders wear. We don't know if the Doomslayer's Praetor suit was created first in Argent D'Nur or by the Wretch. Based on what we know about Sentinel lore, it's very possible that the suit was created in Argent D'Nur just before the betrayal. If not, then it was created solely by the Wretch and the Slayer wore his Sentinel armor up until that point. Other than that, it would be very interesting if Hayden came across Samur within one of the Hell expeditions and gave Hayden the artifact containing parts of the essence of the Father and explained the history of the Makers, the Doomslayer, and other important information for the survival of the human race. That could explain why Hayden knew of the location of the Doomslayer's sarcophagus and knew how to wake him, among other things. On top of that, what if the location at the end of the trailer is where the Wretch or Samur resides? That would be really cool to see that happen. In the end, the idea of Hayden and Samur being two different people can be very possible or not. I have been both right and wrong in the past, and it will be interesting on what will come to light when the DLC is available. The lore for Doom Eternal has been a huge focus on this channel, and I really enjoy digging into more theories, but at the same time I want to know the truth of the many discoveries we have found within the game. Hopefully all of my questions will be answered soon. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I would like to know what you think about the topic. Do you think Hayden and Samur are the same person or not? Let me know down in the comment section. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video as a way to get it out there more. Also, check out my social media accounts of RipNtear Gaming to see other things as well. You guys are awesome, and I really appreciate all the support I get on the channel. Until next time, fellow Slayers, don't forget to rip and tear. Peace.